Okay, well, good morning, everyone. I appreciate you all for coming, and I'm just pleased that we still continue to have so many people show up. That we have our update. I don't know exactly how much we can update, but at least we can hear from our senator, our two representatives, and then our brand new state chairman, Matt Rinaldi, is here. And then I have a couple announcements that we've got going. A lot of excitement that's happening. Maybe the people, those Democrats are in DC, and I think there was some excitement there yesterday in DC, but we've got lots going on in Texas, and I want all of you to know about it and to be aware and see if you can take part. I'm going to ask all of you to mute yourself, except for Senator Hughes. You're going to be the first one up. I believe you're on. Is that you there talking?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Well, everybody, we've got Senator Hughes is going to give us an update. He's been doing a lot of things, even though we can't do so much passing of legislation. At least we know you've got some things going on. So why don't you give us a report?
I'd be glad to. We're so excited for what's going on. Thank you for continuing to put these together and the opportunities for all of us to compare notes and share how we can be involved. And I know everybody on this call is, and it's working. And so I'm sorry, I'm a little bit hoarse. My allergies are bothering me this morning, but it's really great to be here. This week, I've had the opportunity to connect with legislators from other states who are carrying voting bills around the country, also some secretaries of state. And we're comparing notes on what's happening, and we're finding that the left is, of course, moving in lockstep. The very things they're accusing us of in Texas, they're also accusing Republicans of in Pennsylvania, in Florida, and around the country, in North Carolina. The good news is we're winning. These bills are passing around the country. And again, y'all get it. It's about making it easy to vote and hard to cheat. We want to make it easier for eligible voters to vote. We are for people voting. It's good for our democracy. We are not afraid of high turnout. We want more people to vote. The more people that participate, the more people that engage, the better our chances, because we have the truth. We have good ideas that are good for everyone. And as people engage in the process and it's a fair and clean election, Republicans win. So we're very encouraged. I also want to say, just as a matter of Texas pride, just how much God has blessed Texas. As I talk to these other legislators, again, leaders who are carrying the election bills around the country, those who have already passed big bills and those who are trying to pass bills, you should be encouraged. Texas is way ahead of most of these other states. Now, we still have work to do. That's what this bill's about. That's what you're all engaged in. But we are way ahead. Many states are still trying to pass in-person voter ID. Many of these states have universal mail ballots, so everybody gets a ballot by mail, not just those who are 65 or who are disabled, who are going to be out of the county. Many of these states have big obstacles to deal with, and so we're blessed in Texas. A lot of the big reforms we've already put in place, and more is coming. And so you'll recall Senate Bill 1, which has passed in this special session. I'm proud to be the author of that bill, and it's common sense reforms that make the voting better for everybody across the board, regardless of your race or your party or what part of Texas you live in. And so this bill cracks down on ballot harvesters, these paid political operatives who are trying to get in between the voter and their ballot. They're trying to coerce voters, trying to mislead, trying to steal votes. And that's really what this is about. Ballot harvesting, also illegal assistance, people who claim to be helping the voter. They prey on vulnerable voters, many times first-time voters, elderly voters, disabled voters, or maybe voters who have limited English skills. They prey on these voters, try to steal their votes, coerce them, mislead them. So Senate Bill 1 cracks down on those people to protect those voters. because again, when it's a fair, it's a clean election, Republicans win because we have the truth, and we're not afraid. We're not afraid of a fight on an even playing field, and so we're encouraged about that. Of course, I know we have some distinguished members of the House that we'll hear from to remind you of where we are in this special session. Over in this Texas Senate, we have a quorum, even though some of our Democrats left to go to D.C. Enough Democrats in Texas remained so that we have a quorum. And so in the Texas Senate, we have passed Senate Bill 1, the election reform bill. We have passed Senate Bill 3, the critical race theory bill. We have passed Senate Bill 5, the social media censorship bill, the bill to protect our free speech online. Now, those 3 bills happen to be mine. I'm not bragging. I'm just very thankful to be the one to carry those bills. But we've also passed important bills like help for our retired teachers, for children in foster care, property tax relief, bail reform. I know that you folks on this call know about this, but bail reform in Texas, just in the time that the Democrats, since they fled at the end of the last regular session, we've had 5 people murdered by dangerous felons who were out on bond, out on a personal recognizance bond, a PR bond. We have that going on in Texas right now. So I know I'm getting off of election security a little bit, but that's what's going on. So the Senate has passed all these bills. Over in the House, the Republicans are poised to pass these bills, but of course they don't have a quorum because the Democrats have fled. And I'll let our distinguished House members talk more about that. But we're thankful for our House Republicans, and they're holding our Democrat colleagues accountable. And so what we anticipate happening, this special session lasts about a couple more weeks. And as you know, a special session can last only 30 days. And the governor can call us right back. And so if the Democrats do not return in the House, we'll have another special session. Governor Abbott says he'll call us right back, and we're glad he will. And so we'll stay here as long as we have to. We'll come back as many times as we have to get these bills passed. So that's what's going on from a broad standpoint, I guess we'd say that's a 30,000 foot view. But you can be proud of what's in Senate Bill 1. It really is easy to vote, hard to cheat. You may know that right now in Texas on Election Day, current law in Texas says on Election Day, if you're in line to vote and the polls close, maybe you got there a little late, but you get there by the time the polls close, even if the line is long, no matter how long it takes, if you're in line when the polls close, you must be allowed to vote. Now, that's the law in Texas for Election Day, but not for early voting. And as you know, most people vote early now. And so Senate Bill 1 gives that same protection to early voting. Also, many people have jobs that don't allow them to get off work to vote. In Texas, your employer is required to let you off work if your work schedule would not allow you to vote. That's true for Election Day, but not for early voting. Senate Bill 1 extends that protection to early voting. We also have a way for people to cure technical problems with their mail ballots. Maybe there's something they can't read, or maybe there's a technical difficulty. Now, under Senate Bill 1, you, the voter, the legitimate eligible voter, will have a chance to fix that mail ballot so your vote will count. Your legitimate legal vote will count. So this bill makes it easy to vote. And yes, it cracks down on cheating. It goes after those ballot harvesters, and it tells our election officials around the state, no, you cannot just invent things like 24-hour voting and drive-through voting. 24-hour voting has never been done anywhere else in the country we can find. Harris County tried it, and it was a disaster. There were not enough. It was hard to find election workers and poll watchers. And so that's not in the election code. That's clearly going to be stopped with Senate Bill 1. Also, drive-through voting. Now, you know how important it is to have that secret ballot. You go into that polling place. You may take family members with you to vote, maybe a child or grandchild. But when you go in that polling place, that's just you, because that's a private ballot, a secret ballot. That's between you and the Lord. No one knows that you voted. But with drive-through voting, with people jammed into cars, looking over your shoulder, pressuring you, it doesn't work. They had all kinds of problems in Harris County. In fact, they were concerned by election day. They had to stop drive-through voting because the elections chief there said, we're afraid the votes aren't going to count. So Senate Bill 1 stops that practice. It's not safe. It's not secure. They can't even count the votes right. This is a common sense bill about easy to vote and hard to cheat. And we're going to pass it when we come back in special session. The House and Senate will be there. And it's a bill you can be proud of. Do not believe the lies. When the left has to yell and scream and call us racists, when they have to lie, and yes, I said lie, when they have to lie about what's in the bill, you know we're winning. You know they're right. And that's the good news that I'll end this part with. Around the country, not just in Texas, the left is spending tens of millions of dollars, and their allies, their wholly owned subsidiary, the national media, is spreading their lies, and they're blocking the truth. And still, Americans are with us. Americans and Texans overwhelmingly support voter ID. They support standardized practices for voting, and they do not support the feds taking over our elections. They do not support that. And so we're encouraged. The reports from Washington tell us that this federal takeover our elections, H.R. 1, S1, does not have support. It looks like it's not going to pass, but we can't give up. We have to be diligent. So I'm thankful for everything you're doing. A couple of events are coming up. Congressman Crenshaw has invited me to join him next week to talk about this bill. We're encouraged about that. And so Tony Ann has got so many exciting projects happening. And I know different folks on the call have contributions, but that is what's going on from my standpoint. And again, I thank you guys for being engaged. I thank you for praying. We need to pray that the truth will come out. I know you are, and we're encouraged about the way things are going. Listen, we're on the right side, and we are going to win this fight.
Well, Senator, you're right. We are going to win it. And I'm excited that you brought up your conversation that you're going to have with Congressman Crenshaw. If you guys all look on the very first chat post, that is the link to where you can sign up. And this is going to be on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. So I would encourage all of you to attend that. I'll remind you again at the end, but I'm glad that you brought that up. And thank you, Senator, for everything that you're doing. You are incredible, stepping up to the plate. I think Quentin's going to announce something a little bit later also. And you're always there for us. So we are truly appreciative. Wish that the House was being able to work on these bills too, but we'll have to wait for that next session. Okay, let's move on. Again, thank you, Senator. And now we'll go to Chairwoman Click. I think that I know I had a conversation with you earlier, so I know you're somewhere. Do you have something to say to us this morning?
Good morning.
There you are.
Of course, we do not yet have a quorum in the House. The Democrats ran away to D.C. For those of you that may not have known, several of the Democrats were on Capitol Hill in a congressional hearing yesterday. Interesting point is C-SPAN did not cover that hearing. If you wanted to watch it, I think the only place you could find it was on YouTube. So if you missed it, you might be able to go out and find it on YouTube from yesterday. But some of our Texas delegation members, Chip Roy, Pat Fallon, Pete Sessions, did a great job in holding the Dems' feet to the fire in some of the questions that they were offering to them during the hearing. Interesting thing is they did not really talk about specifics that they were opposed to in the bill. They were just making blanket allegations that were all racist for supporting this type of legislation. At one point, when the Democrat members were questioning the Texas Democrat House members, it really appeared that the whole thing was scripted. One of the members was asked questions and she was reading from her iPad her answers, which was fascinating. That would be something great to do a public information request, I'm sure, as to what might come out of that. But we are still going in onto the floor every day. In fact, we have to have a permission slip to even leave the House floor. And we're doing briefings, press conferences. We met with a number of the police associations earlier this week on bail reform. And as Senator Hughes mentioned, that is one of the items on the call. We're having a horrible problem around the state, particularly in Harris and Travis County, where people that have committed heinous violent crimes are being released from jail on personal recognizance bonds, and they're going out and re-offending. Our crime rate around the state is going up because we've got these serial or repeat criminals getting out of jail and going and reoffending and hurting people. So that is one of the other items on the call that is very important, along with election integrity and some of the CPS reforms. So we are keeping busy, even though we can't legislate until we have a quorum. And thanks for everybody for getting up on an early Friday morning to be here.
Yes, I mean, we're up to 155, Chairman. So yes, I appreciate that. And thanks for giving that report about yesterday too. Appreciate that. I think Representative Jatan is on here somewhere. I think you've joined us.
Good morning.
There you are. Good morning. Are you back in that car again?
I am. I'm driving back. I came back right after session yesterday to speak at Helping a Hero last night, and I had my wife Fanny driving for me today. And,
hey, good morning.
So she's helping me out. We're going to spend the weekend down there and check in each day to make sure we're checking in on quorum. But I think Chairman Click made a good point. The Texas legislature, as legislators, we have duties still that we're able to still work on, and a lot of that's constituent services. And I've noticed that our Democrat colleagues that are in D.C., their staff seems to be what's the right way to say this? We have constituents. They have constituents that are reaching out to our offices now seeking assistance, and they will be the ones that remember that their legislators fled to D.C. and not only prevented the legislature from working, but also left their constituents high and dry when they needed help. And so we're continuing to show up. We're continuing to be ready to work. It looks like this session, first special session, will probably end without a quorum. And we'll have to start this whole process all over again. But we've got all these bills all teed up and ready to go, and so we'll start this next special session sometime after. I think August 6th will be the last day, which is next Friday. Will be the last day of this special session, and we'll start this process over. But that's what makes these calls so important, is we get an opportunity to continue to talk about these bills, make sure that we got our messaging on point. I think that we're doing a really good job of making sure that we have the details to tell the media, to tell our friends, to get it out there. And the media and the Democrats, they don't have any specifics to point at anymore. We've debunked any specifics that they try to bring up. We've torn down now. It's hard to convince someone that you have to have the ability to vote at 2 a.m. It's hard to convince people that you need to have drive-through voting when you don't get to have the secret ballots anymore. Their arguments are falling apart. We have the right message points. We got to keep on talking about it. We got to keep on showing up every week, to make sure we're staying fresh on this, because we have an obligation to outlast the Democrats, and we can outlast them. They can't stay there forever. We're part-time legislators. We have jobs. We have businesses here. Our families here. Some point they're coming home, and we need to stay ready and prepared. And when that happens, if we have hearings, we need y'all's help to show up there and be prepared with those messaging points. And when these items get to the floor, we're going to need y'all's support still. And so I appreciate y'all continuing to show up on these calls and be engaged and ready to get this stuff done.
Well, thank you. The passion that you guys still have, I mean, there has to be a lot of frustration with on the House side, but we can hear that passion. And as you can tell, as you just said, Representative Jeton or Chairwoman Click and the Senator, with 157 people on a call on a Friday morning between 7 and 8, there's passion here too to support you. So I know that we're standing with you and to get this job done. And we're going to hear from our chairman here pretty quick. But before we do that, Chairman Rinaldi, I'm going to have Karen ask a few questions, and then we'll go over to you, have questions there, and we'll continue on and going back and forth. But let's have some questions in case we need to one of our representatives, if you, JC, get disconnected because you're out there driving, but we appreciate you being in the car and talking to us, and your lovely wife driving for you. And then, but I want to make sure we have some of these questions answered, and then we can go into hearing from our new chairman. So where's my Karen? There's Karen. I see her shaking her head.
Right here, ma'am.
On the hot seat again, please.
All right, firing it up. I'm going to start with the questions that are about the topics that they have addressed so far. Ben Brown asks, how many Democrat House members are currently reporting for duty each day?
Right now, I believe that we're about 9 short of a quorum. So there are Democrats that are showing up every day and that did not leave.
All right. And Debbie Duke asks, what are options to be able to proceed without the Democrats that are currently in DC? Is everything possible being done?
State constitution requires 100 for us to take any action. And so we have to get to 100 members in the House before we can start having committee hearings or having votes on the floor.
And I will add to that.
Oh,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was
just going to say, once we get 9 more, go ahead.
So the quorum requirements are very high for us in Texas. I think everybody on the call knows this, but we're very unusual in this. Most legislative bodies, most bodies of leadership, whether it's the board of directors of a corporation or a club, for most groups, a quorum, the amount that must be present to do business, is a simple majority, 50% plus 1. But in Texas, our quorum requirements requires to have 2/3 for the House, 2/3 for the Senate. So 100 House members, 21 senators. It's a very, very high bar, and it's in the Texas Constitution. So Lieutenant Governor Patrick has proposed that we lower that requirement to a simple majority. Again, that's the way it is in most legislative bodies. To do that requires a constitutional amendment, takes a 2/3 vote in the House and the Senate, and approval of the voters. We're going to move forward with that in the Senate, but it's going to be hard. But that's one thing we can do to help going forward to keep this from happening, to lower that quorum requirement to a simple majority from 2/3. Representative Jeton, I'm so sorry to interrupt. You go ahead, please.
No, you're good. You're good. And that's right. I mean, once we get those 9 more, we can have 50 of them still sitting over, or 49 sitting over in DC still, and it won't matter. And we do need to get 9 more. And this is what makes 2022 so important. We've seen in the history where there's been punishment from the voters for those that have fled and caused this type of situation. And if we can get those 101 members, 100 plus members Republican, after 2022, we have an opportunity to do these constitutional amendments. Until then, I think it's going to be hard to convince Democrats to take away this ability from them. But we got to look at the long game and make sure that we're focusing on how we're going to flip those seats in 2022, so we're able to change that quorum amount.
Absolutely. I'm going to interject here, Karen, before you ask another question. That's called the action item here, listening to the 3 of them. What we need to do here, if you are in a Democrat district, you need to call that office and voice your concern. Even if that person hasn't gone to DC, they're part of the same caucus, and they need to be encouraging their members or demanding their members to come back and start working again for Texas. So you still don't get frustrated, say, oh, there's nothing I can do. You can make that call. Your voice can be heard. Be respectful, but be firm. Okay, go ahead, Karen. You're muted, Karen.
That doesn't help.
No.
Do you expect that the board will handle redistricting since the Democrats do not plan to attend special session?
So the legislative, I'm going to make you go first this time, Representative. Go ahead, please.
You're good. I apologize. I was just going to say, our hopes is they're going to come back before then. We have, that's the data for from the census supposed to come in August 16th, and that'll get certified September 30th, and so we still have some time before October special session when we get to address the redistricting, and so we're kind of monitoring it still, but our hopes is still that they're going to come before then. Go ahead, Senator. Sorry.
No, thank you, Representative. You're so right, and I know folks on the call realize this, but that legislative redistricting board, that's set up in the Texas Constitution, and it's statewide elected officials. And in the event that the legislature does not get redistricting done in the normal course, then the legislative redistricting board is the one who draws those lines. Those are all Republicans now, those statewide officers. Now, it's interesting. The Texas Constitution says that the legislative redistricting board can draw the lines for the Texas House, Texas Senate. They cannot draw the lines for the U.S. congressional map. Only the legislature can do that. So the last time that the legislature failed to agree on maps was in 2001. At that time, we had a Republican Texas Senate and a Democratic Texas House. And so the Republicans in the Senate and the Democrats in the House obviously could not agree on a map. And the Republicans in the Senate wanted it that way because if the legislature did not pass a map, it would go to that legislative redistricting board. And that happened in 2001, and they drew really good lines, fair lines for the Texas House and the Texas Senate. But they do not have any authority to draw congressional lines. And so a federal court drew the congressional line. So that's sort of a two-edged sword. We'd love to have the legislative redistricting board draw the lines, but if they do, that means the federal courts would end up doing the congressional maps if we couldn't agree on that. So I'm with Representative Jatan. We have time to get it done. We can get it done, but we do have that backstop of the legislative redistricting board to draw the lines for the Texas House and Senate. And they're all Republicans. They would draw good lines if it fell to them to do it.
All right, the next question is from Tanya Robertson. Is the Texas Senate and House going to work to pass any legislation that would separate Texas election and federal elections in order to protect us? A trigger bill.
There is a proposal to do that, and Mike Schofield has worked very hard on that, and it can be done. There were different proposals. One idea was that we would just move our state and local elections to a different day or even a different year. Now, that's a major undertaking, but we can fix this problem without going that far. And the reason is, of course, the U.S. Constitution covers all elections, and we have to comply with the U.S. Constitution. And we do, we will. But beyond that, if the feds put additional requirements on our elections, those requirements apply to federal elections, U.S. President, U.S. Congress. They do not apply to elections for Texas statewide officials, for the House, for the Senate, for county, for city, for school board. Those are state elections. So we believe there's a way that we can separate out those elections. It's a little bit complicated, but it can be done. Now, we have some options. We won't need to do that unless the Congress passes H.R. 1, S1, this federal takeover of our elections. And that bill would get rid of voter ID. It would remove all kinds of security from our elections. So if they do that, we'd have an opportunity then to come back in special session and get that fixed. But there is a way to do it. The bill has not been passed at this time. It's a little complicated, but there is a way that we can separate our state and local elections from federal elections if we have to.
All right, next question, and I'll let you start off, Senator. What can be done legally and to significantly punish the Democrats for going AWOL, leaving duty? And why is Speaker Phelan not arresting and bringing them back to Texas?
You bet. So the Texas House rules and Texas Senate rules are similar in some ways and different in some ways. In both the House and Senate rules, it says that if we lack a quorum, the speaker or the lieutenant governor, the members can vote to put a call on the body, the House or the Senate. And of course, you know, when they do that, the doors are locked and those of us who are there cannot leave. And then the sergeant sends out to arrest the absent members. And when it says to arrest them, it doesn't mean mugshots and fingerprints, but it does mean you take them into custody and you bring them back to the House. You bring the senators back to the Senate. So that's in the House rules. That's in the Senate rules. And so when the Democrats left the first time, there was not a call on the House at that moment. And so there was no authority to arrest them. And so that was the problem. But the House and Senate rules are similar in that you can put a call on the House, a call on the Senate. You lock the doors, don't let anyone leave. And for the members who are not there, you send out the sergeant, and the sergeant in arms has the DPS do it for them. And they go and arrest the absent members, not mugshots and fingerprints, but they're arrested and brought back to the chamber. Now, the Senate rules go further. The Texas Senate rules say that members who deprive us of a quorum for an extended period can be deprived of the privileges of seniority, of membership, of various things like that. That's in the Senate rules. It is not in the House rules. So the House does not have as much authority as the Senate does. But you've probably seen last week, a request was made to the Attorney General to spell out for us exactly what the law is. How long before a member leaves the state like this? How long before they have forfeited their office and they can be replaced? You can have another election to replace them. Or how long before you can remove them from a committee or from a chairmanship? And so I'll let our excellent House members comment on this. But the Senate rules does give the Senate more power than the House has. And the AG is working on an opinion to tell us exactly what we can do. But I know the Speaker and our House Republicans are fighting hard to get this done. I'll let the House members tell us more about the House, but that's the rules in the Senate and the House as I understand them.
Chairwoman Click, do you want to comment on that before Representative Jayton does?
I think that the senator covered the question quite well.
Good. Hey, that's good.
Yeah, no, I think the senator did a good job. I just want to reiterate that, you know, there is nothing that the House leadership is holding back on in regards to what can and can't be done to punish and encourage our Democrat colleagues to come back. And I think that's the message I want to make sure is definitely heard. We have good attorneys on this, and there's a lot of, you know, we are looking at all the different angles to, you know, encourage their participation and coming back. But until we get to 100 members, we're stuck in a lot of ways. We also, you know, I also want to reiterate that we did pick these rules at the beginning of session, and we did it with the intentionality of not over empowering our speaker. And there's just a way that things are done in the House, and we want to keep that balance of making sure that the 150 members have, you know, have their say and have their authority. And you want to limit the speaker in some ways. And so that's just, I just want to reiterate those points. I know there's been a lot of questions and concerns about, you know, why isn't more done? And a lot of that is because we have House rules that prevent it. And a lot of that is, you know, it doesn't help in this situation, but it's good when we're not in this situation. And we got to look at the, you know, how this applies both in this situation and without. So that's all I got on that.
Okay.
May I follow? May I? I'm so sorry, Hughes. May I say one more thing?
Senator, go ahead.
Representative Jayton made a tremendous point. It's frustrating to us when things like this happen, But at the beginning of session, our House Republican leadership did make an important decision. We like the speaker, but if you give too much power to the speaker, whoever the speaker is, that can be a bad thing. We're conservatives. We understand decentralized power. We don't want to concentrate too much power in one place. So Representative Giton makes a very important point. If you give the House Speaker too much power, whoever it is, that can be really bad. So it is a tough balance they have to maintain. In the beginning of session, that's what they were thinking of when they put the rules together. So that, Representative Giton, that's as an observer who's not in the House, I want to amen what you said, because you guys have to balance that. A super strong speaker can be powerful for good or powerful for bad. So that's an important point. I'm glad you said that.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I'm going to stop the questions right now, and I'm going to, so that we give our new chairman some time to speak, and we're going to put him on the hot seat too. I think you might have some questions that are coming up, and if we have any extra time, we'll answer, we'll see if we can get some of these other questions answered. And I do want to show you an ad that just came through my email as we've been on the call. So I'm hoping it's only 30 seconds. I'm hoping to show that at the end. So let us go forward now to our newly elected chairman, Matt Rinaldi, only elected just this past July 11th. He has a lot of history with the Republican Party. And I am, as he was the state representative, he's done many things for the party. And we've all heard him when we were doing all the our forums. So I'm going to let him go ahead and give us a presentation, let some questions be asked. And so he has an opportunity to answer. And so, Chairman, welcome. Thank you for being willing to serve. And you did an excellent job the other day on the RNC call. So thank you for representing Texas well. So you're up, Chairman.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Just to go over, I was going to go over a couple of things going on with the party in terms of the transition, how that's going. As well, I wanted to go over the Democrats leaving and kind of the state of what's been happening over the past week and big news that Republicans have been messaging on. First, we came in, there was some people leaving the office. So one thing we focused on was personnel. And I think we made 2 great hires over the past 3 weeks. The first being John Beckmeyer as executive director of the party. He will be in charge of the day-to-day operations at the office. And John's a former SREC member, former county chair, has a long history with the Republican Party, and has many years of business experience running businesses. So I have the utmost confidence that he will do a tremendous job. Also, we hired a comms director. We had 2 comms directors, communications directors, previously under the Republican Party of Texas. We decided to combine those 2 jobs, and we hired James Weslick, a former comms director for Texas Values and also Heritage Action. James is very skilled. He has a lot of experience doing communications in the conservative movement, and I think he's a great hire. We're also deep in planning for the Houston convention. We are going to have the convention in Houston the week of June 13th to the 18th. And we're currently negotiating the last finer points of the contract. We want to make sure the force majeure clause is tight so that we don't have another issue like we had last convention with the cancellation. So we're just trying to shore up that language, and we should have something filed. I was hoping to have something filed today, but it looks like it might be early next week. Third, fundraising. We're putting together a fundraising committee. We're trying to get the infrastructure in place to be able to raise not only enough money for convention, but we want to raise more money from large donors, because currently we're spending far too much federal money, small donation money, which we're taking in we're taking in enough money to pay our expenses every month. But there are a lot of small donations, and we want to take in larger donations so we can use the smaller donations on our federal candidates. So that's our other goal that we've been pursuing. We're putting together a fundraising committee to try to do that. As far as the Democrats leaving, obviously my first week on the job, I spent a lot of time on TV. We were messaging the Democrat chairs leave, or the Democrats leaving. Very, I don't think it went over well for them publicly. I think we're winning that debate in the public sphere. I don't think there's an end game for them as long as the House does pursue the call and does arrest people who come back. I think the only danger is if the arrests are just talk and Democrats can come back at will to visit their family without being taken into the House in order to meet quorum, then this will last a lot longer than it otherwise would. In previous calls, Democrats have been brought into the House and eventually they broke. I think that'll happen again this time. As far as what the party's been doing, we have called, I've called for the removal of Democrat chairs, as has the governor, Democrat chairs who fled the state. The governor's called for the removal of those chairs. I know Representative Leach has, and several House members have as well. There is a debate over whether or not the speaker can remove the chairs unilaterally, like the lieutenant governor has under the House rules. I posted the rule, and there is a good faith debate that can be made on both sides. What it does is it's silent as to whether or not the speaker can remove them, but it specifically says the speaker can't remove them if a new speaker is appointed mid-session in the same rule. So where it wants to, it says the speaker does not have the power. So where it's silent, it could be reasonable to assume the speaker does have the power. Speaker Phelan has taken a different view. Effectively, when you have a rules debate in the House, the speaker's like the judge, right? The rules are the law, the speaker's the judge. And this is one with a good faith argument on both sides. The speaker's decided he doesn't have the power. I personally disagree, but he's made a ruling that does have a good faith basis. If the speaker doesn't, it means the House has to vote. Now, one of the things is the rules, you cannot vote on issues when you have quorum, but the Constitution does allow you to vote on, as a body, on certain things if you don't have quorum. Under Article 3, Section 10, it says 2/3 of the House shall constitute a quorum to do business, but a smaller number may adjourn from day to day, and 2, compel the attendance of absent members in such a manner and under such penalties as each House may provide. So you can constitutionally, without quorum, vote to impose penalties on fleeing Democrats, such as in 2003, the Senate imposed fines and removed House and office privileges of fleeing senators. So there's precedent for that. Arguably, other penalties may be removing committee chairmanships. So far, what's happened is they've removed the speaker pro tem, but I don't think much else has happened besides that. I don't know what else they have planned, but I know some House members are seeking to bring resolutions. I don't know if the speaker is allowing those, but I do know some of the Freedom Caucus members are planning on bringing resolutions to remove chairs and put a structure in place so that a certain number of absences may forfeit committee chairmanships in the future. I also wrote an article that was published on American Mind that said that we should revisit the idea of Democrat committee chairmanships altogether. We're one of the very few states where Republicans willingly share power with Democrats, and that's a vestige of the old blue dog Democrat era. The problem is there aren't many blue dog Democrats left, and most of the Democrats that we currently have are very extreme. Some who have been appointed to committee chairmanships openly calling our Republican senators and House members seditionists and insurrectionists for voting against certification of the election. And these aren't people we should be empowering with committee chairmanships. At least I don't believe in the future. I think we need to revisit that issue and revisit that in the House rules next session when we vote. And then lastly, the CDC guidance has changing on forcing vaccinated people to wear masks, I think has caused an uproar in our politics, especially our Republican officials, which have stood hard against it, like Representative Crenshaw and Ted Cruz. You know, we're entering a phase now where Democrats are pushing for more lockdowns. They're pushing for more mask mandates. I read this morning, the LA school districts now are imposing weekly tests on teachers and students you know, as a condition of going to school. And you have this despite, while cases are rising, very low deaths. I mean, probably 300 per day in the whole country at 300 million people, which is about the average you'll get in a bad flu season. Yet we're still going under this forever pandemic. That's going to affect the next elections. I think it's going to be big in messaging over the next year because Democrats have taken a really firm stand on it. Luckily, the governor yesterday repealed his former triggers and has made it clear that under no circumstances will the state close or will there be capacity limitations. He previously had 15% of hospitalizations being COVID patients, being a threshold for localities to be able to impose restrictions. He repealed that yesterday, which was fantastic. And I think that's going to be great for Texas economy going forward and provide us some certainty. So I'll yield to any questions you guys might have about anything.
Okay, so Karen, as you've probably heard her asking the questions earlier, Karen Marshall out of San Antonio will be asking you some questions.
All right. Charles Simmons asked the first question today. Chairman Rinaldi, are the Republicans investigating Mike Lindell's packet capture proof of Chinese election flipping, cyber fraud?
We specifically are no, not specifically that allegation, but we are very concerned with election fraud, and we have an election day operation that looks specifically for that. And we coordinate, of course, with the RNC, with candidates and other organizations legally to make sure fraud's vetted out and prosecuted.
All right. Charles Grindon asks, what was the financial status of the Republican Party when you took over?
The answer is not as bad as some would have you believe, and not as good as some would have you believe. Generally, when you have a chair election, depending on who you're voting for, it's either catastrophic or really great. But in reality, it's somewhere in between. I looked over historically, and we're really no worse than we were historically. We have about 4 months of expenses in reserve, 4 months of float, and we're taking in enough each month off of reoccurring donations, email and direct mail donations to pay all the expenses of the party. So, I mean, there's definitely no emergency. The party's fine. We have no debt. The downside is we do need to raise a lot of money for convention. Convention account's low. I don't foresee that being a problem. And we don't have enough in large donations. So we're using those small donations to pay for personnel and rent when we should be banking those up because we can use those for federal candidates.
Can AWOL representatives and senators who are taking salaries and per diem be charged with theft of state resources?
No, probably not. The criminal law generally leaves House matters and legislative matters to the body. So the body polices its own members. So if it's something committed in your own duties, and this isn't something like bribery or fraud or something like that, but generally, if it's something committed in the course of your duties, the House polices itself.
All right. Mary Heffernan requests, will the RPT please publish a timely quarterly SREC meeting schedule with site information so that those of us who like attending can make plans to attend?
Well, okay. So the SREC meeting will be announced. I thought it was going to be yesterday, but it might be today or Monday. It's going to be in Lubbock, in the tradition of moving meetings around. Lubbock was already in the works when I took over. What we're going to do going forward is that's going to be the last traveling meeting for a year. And the next 3 are going to be in Austin. So instead of doing every meeting traveling and upending everybody and worrying about where it's going to be, what we do for a corporate board I'm on, I think works pretty well. We have 3 meetings a year at headquarters and 1 meeting a year traveling. I think that's what we're going to do going forward.
Good. All right. Pat asks, how do you plan to unite the Trumpers, never Trumpers, conservatives, and moderate Republicans in our party?
You know, unite is an interesting word in terms of definition. I think, you know, you'll never be fully united. I don't even think I'm fully united with my wife on many issues, and we're very close. The trick is you have to be united on the larger goal. And I think, you know, it's interesting because we agree on every issue. It's just the Trumpers just want to see more being done. I mean, that's what I hear. I don't hear differences on your view on abortion or your view on gun control. I hear differences as to how frustrated people are because they don't see action. So I think in what RPT is doing in terms of encouraging action by our representatives and encouraging action on our legislative priorities, I think that unites the party. I think a lot of people just want to see people doing something. But I think we all agree on the main issues.
All right. Next question is, what are your 3 priorities?
Well, 3 priorities are fundraising, convention, and protecting the Republican brand.
All right. What issues offer the party the greatest opportunity to reclaim the majority in the U.S. House and Senate?
It's tough to see that until redistricting, but you know, regarding redistricting, I think there's an opportunity in drawing those districts to make, obviously we have to draw a certain number of Democrat districts, but we can shore up our Republican votes and create opportunity districts that are that are built on, you know, the suburbs that we lost, places like the Houston area, like Representative Jatanza, which we almost lost. The areas like that are people who have voted Republican within the last 6 years, and they left us, and they may come back, and we need to get them back, and we need to push an effort to actually get those voters back. So with those wide swings, you can create Democrat districts that may turn Republican within the next 10 years, and I think that creates an opportunity.
So thank you. This will be the last question, Karen, so then we can go into our action items. One more, Chairman, to be on the hot seat.
Okay.
All right. Ellis election fraud case was thrown out by an activist judge. Are we taking this to appeal court? 147,000 votes is nothing to sneeze at. This was asked by Meg Seff.
I don't know. I'd have to check into that.
All right, well, that was a quick one to go.
Yeah.
Then would they, and something more, I mean, we're running short on time, but thank you, Chairman, for being open, sharing your ideas and answering the questions. We really do appreciate it. So
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
you bet.
Take care, everybody.
What I'd like to do now is Our action item, I have Quentin Hitchcock, who is the RNC state director on. This all came about, I'm not sure if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, when someone reported about Beto having this walk. And it was like, okay, well, let's make this happen. And Quentin, I think you've got something to report about on this so that everybody might be able to participate.
Well, thank you, committee woman, and good morning, everybody. So a quick update, kind of what the RNC is doing this week. As probably most of you have heard, Beto is going to be organizing this pretty massive rally, march style, almost like a Selma style march to the Capitol to protest voting rights. This is something that has gained a lot of traction. A lot of media coverage is going to be anticipated. We even found out yesterday that Willie Nelson is going to be a part of this, and it's going to be a big spectacle in Austin. So with that being said, we have determined it really doesn't look good if we do not have a response to this. So the RNC here in Texas is going to be organizing a counter protest for this ordeal that's going to take place Saturday morning around 10 a.m. I do want to give a shout out. We are very, very fortunate enough to get the help of Senator Hughes, who's going to be kind of helping us lead this charge. So Senator, very, very grateful to you. Thank you so much. But folks, I'll make this very short and sweet. We need to have as many people down there as possible. This will be on the front steps of the Capitol. My job really is going to be to make sure that as many people get there as possible, that it is as organized as possible. We are going to have media there. There's going to be press. And yes, they are going to be covering our side of the story. We are doing everything now to make sure that that is the case. But folks, we need everybody in the Central Texas area to get there. All I am asking for, folks, is just 1 hour of your time on Saturday. This is very, very important. To give you context, Beto's group is likely to have several thousand attendees. So we really need to step up to the plate and show people that that we actually do, can walk the walk on this and support our Republicans in office. Tony Ann, thank you so much again for your time and for your support on this. Could not have done it without you. But thank you so much for giving me time this morning.
You bet. I absolutely. And thank you for putting all the time and effort. Thank you, Senator Hughes, for agreeing to be there to continue that fight. But everyone, be there, wear your shirt. I mean, it's the last minute, but everything in this is last minute. So it is tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the Capitol. Short notice, but you can do it. I hope that you will be there. The t-shirt that Leslie has on, Leslie Fitzpatrick, the one that Tanya Robertson put together, if you bought that shirt and have it, wear it. If you don't and you have something, vote Republican or one person, one vote. If you go and have something made, wear it and be there. Let's stand united. And thank you again, Quentin, for all that hard work and making it happen in such short notice. The other thing I want to bring up also is, which was mentioned earlier, is about the coffee with Crenshaw and Senator Hughes on election integrity. That is August 3rd. That's this Tuesday at 10 a.m. It has been posted in the chat, and you can find it on Facebook. That's where I found it. I'm attending this chat, this coffee Tuesday morning. I hope that you'll join us and hear what they have to say, support our elected officials, and getting the word out to invite others to be there. 10 a.m. That's a lot better than 7. So we get over 160 people coming. They should have hundreds or thousands of people there. Be there on that call. I'm going to move into our next call. That's a question mark. Don't know when that's going to be because of the, oh great, my battery's going out. Because of the special session ending, and we're not sure when the next special session is going to be, I need to, I will be sending out a message, but what you need to know is you're going to have to sign up for the call again when we put that out, when the next Zoom that we have on Friday morning at 7 a.m. So I know there are a lot of questions left on the table here, but I just want to say thank you guys. Maybe we didn't accomplish a lot. Well, we didn't get a fund. We accomplished a lot by the Senate doing the work, the House being there ready to get going. If the Dems wouldn't have left, we have to be thankful for them. Continue to bring in new people. Bring some people tomorrow that have never gotten involved and to the Capitol. Let's do this together. I want to thank you all for your participation. I look forward to you participating in a couple weeks, but I want to see if you guys will stay on for 1 second. I want to see if I can get this ad up that the RNC is putting out, and let's see if we can get this to watch here. Is that going to run there? And this will be our closing. Let's see, is it working? Come on, please. Oh, there it is. It is 30 seconds, and this is running in Texas.
Everyone should have trust in our elections, but Democrats are opposing common sense voting reforms. What are they afraid of? Here's what Republicans are actually for. Only mail-in ballots to register voters, more early voting, bipartisan election observers, and verifying IDs. We want to make it easier to vote and harder to cheat. Maybe that's what the Democrats are worried about.
The Republican National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
So I am very proud to say that the RNC is working hard for us, and those ads are here in Texas. They're going about because we are about making elections fair. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Tony, we never got the link for the Tuesday coffee. Can y'all please put that in the chat?
It was, Leslie, if you go into the very first post, I posted it this morning, the very first post on chat.
I don't have it. I must have gotten in after you did because that's not in my chat.
Okay, Nicole.
1 second.
Hold on just a second. We'll get it. Let's see.
Yeah, I got on at about 6:57, and I have a thing in the chat
There it
for
is.
6:58.
There you go.
I'm working on it.
I got it on there.
I appreciate it.
No problem. Copy and paste it. That's what I did. Okay, everybody. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, everyone. Have a fabulous weekend. Hope that we get to see you. I'm not going to be able to be there tomorrow, but I'm hoping that Quentin sees all of your faces tomorrow at the Capitol. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Tony.
you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you,
Thank you.
Representative Click and Jatan. Everybody, thank you so much. And